There should be good.
Good morning. Yes, there we are. Yes. Welcome to the 54th season of the Utah Shakespeare Festival and to the first seminar of this week. We started the seminars last week because we had first previews. Now we're into second previews, and then opening day will be Thursday. But for all of you who have been coming for a number of years, you know that preview week and opening week are the times when the directors of the productions are our guests, and I've been told by many of you that that's why you buy your tickets this time of year, so that you can come and hear the directors. I will also tell you that we are live streaming these seminars with the directors. And if you want to revisit them or tell your friends that they are live streamed, that you can find them on our website, bard.org, and listen to them at your leisure. But for now, you're live and we're live. And just to know that everything you say today is recorded for posterity. So don't let that stop you talking. The marching orders that we are given here is to get a conversation going. You see live theater in the evening, then that prompts you to want to have a live conversation. And that's what I hope will happen today. My name's Nancy Mielich, and I am Literary Seminar Director here at the festival.
For how many years?
This is my 12th year, starting, even dozen, and I'm very happy to be here and welcome all of you. Is there anyone here attending the Utah Shakespeare Festival for the very first time? Aha, oh, okay. Now I just talked to these people. They're from Mesquite, right? Welcome. Former Utah residents in Springdale. Welcome. Glad you're here. Some other folks back here. Where are you from? Where in California? Okay, welcome. Glad you're here. Anyone else? Did I miss anyone? Over here, someone? No? Yes, in the back?
Right here in front.
Okay, shout out where you're from. Michigan. Where in Michigan? Okay, took you a minute. Are you sure? You were, I think what you, okay, because you thought people would know Detroit, and you'd probably be right. Not so much the town. Tell me again. Royal Oak. All right. And someone in the back? No? Where are you from? Seattle, Washington. Welcome. All right. And speaking of Washington, my very capable assistant, Bailey Smith, is from Washington as well. And Bailey is a student here at Southern Utah University. And she and I will be together the entire season. And she's wonderful. And it's the reason that everything works here in the morning is due to Bailey. Now, let me just give you a couple of housekeeping announcements. When you have a few minutes, be sure and visit the Southern Utah Braithwaite Arts Gallery directly behind us. There's a wonderful exhibit there, and those hours are 10 to 7, and it will give you a little bit of a hint as to what is going to happen when the new Southern Utah Museum of Arts opens on the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Center next year, along with a couple of theaters, right, Fred? A couple of theaters, yes. Also, in your brochure, it announces that there is a costume seminar today at 11 a.m. That has been canceled due to obvious reasons. We're in preview weekend. There won't be a costume seminar today. However, there will be an actors seminar here tomorrow at 11 in this very location. And we will have two of the actors from the company who will be with us. So I hope you can be here for that. All right. So for those of you who are new, this gentleman to my right is not particularly new to the festival.
Not too new.
The reason that we are all here is due to this man, Fred C. Adams, who founded this extraordinary festival along with his wife, Barbara. In 1961, the first performances that were here, directed all three. Fred directed all three of those shows, including Taming of the Shrew, and he has directed over 19 of Shakespeare's plays. And the most recent, prior to last night's Taming of the Shrew, was for our 50th anniversary when he directed A Midsummer Night's Dream. That production has the distinction of winning a regional Emmy Award, and it is on DVD for those of you who did not get to see it or who want to see it again. Fred also directed Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, The Mikado, Peter Pan, and when he, well, I'll let you tell the story. I was going to ask you about, or tell the folks about your directing of Taming of the Shrew in 1962, and then revisiting it in 2015, and the differences that you have seen, or have you grown? Has the play grown? Has Shakespeare become more relevant or less relevant? What do you think?
I think he's definitely much more relevant to an 84-year-old man than he was to a 30-year-old greenhorn. When I directed it, the first time I directed Taming of the Shrew was in Helsinki, Finland, and I helped on it. I was the advisor for a production of Taming of the Shrew. It was a new translation, a Finnish translation, and that was my first acquaintanceship with the play itself. When I came to SUU, then it was a small junior college, CSU then, and I had come from New York, and I decided the Hicks here would really need to have we were going to establish a theater program, a winter drama program, and I'd really show these people how it was done. So I did a marvelous current comedy called On Borrowed Time, which was with death up in an apple tree, and I did a marvelous fantasy, Undine, which was playing on Broadway at the time, and I got first regional rights to do a musical, Bells Are Ringing. So I thought, well, there we are. That's going to sucker them in. It was a brand new 1,000-seat theater here, 1,000 seats, and they had a few English department plays the year before, but mostly entertaining themselves. And so I was going to show them how it was done. For On Borrowed Time, we had one night we had 75 people, but the rest of the 2-week run, we played to about 25 people a night. More people in the cast than on the stage. Undine scared the jeepers out of them. They weren't about to go see a play about mermaids, so we just kind of had fun by ourselves. But the very first musical done here. Now, Cedar City was a city of opera. There had been more grand opera produced in Cedar City than in Salt Lake City. They had a huge opera program. They would do. They would have what they called an opera fest, where they would mount 6 operas in a week. They would have Carmen and Traviata and Trovatore and Carmen and Red Mill. I remember one particular year. I mean, they were used to that. But musical, I got just over 100 people a night to see the musical. Without any gate money at all, and not knowing what else to do, we decided the cheapest thing for us would be to do a Shakespeare. And so I had an experience with Shrew. We did Shrew.
So in that production, did you do the Christopher Sly intro, or did you omit it as well as last night?
I omitted it. I had gone to the football team to see if I could get some boys for it, and I got 4 of the football team volunteered and came and helped me with it, and we had to run it an additional 2 weeks. We sold out the 2 weeks, had to play another. So I knew something was wrong with this community.
So tell us when you say you sold out the folding chairs and the platform where
No, we're in the auditorium,
okay.
and we sold 1,000 seats a night for the 6 nights of its run, and then for an additional 6 nights, 2 more weekends, which just boggled me. And of course, that kind of was the clue
And
of
why
all
did
of
you pick
this.
Shrew?
I picked Shrew very openly. I picked Shrew because it was a comedy. It's a comedy that I think is a popular piece, and it had a lot of knockdown, drag out, punching in it. I had football players. One of the ends played Petruchio, and he was marvelous. He could pick her up and throw her around, and for a 30-year-old kid, that was perfect. That was Shakespeare. I mean, that was authentic Shakespeare. It was so successful that when we started the festival 2 years later, we mounted it again, and all of them volunteered. The football players as well volunteered to give me their summer to come and do it, and it was a big success. It was the same production.
But then was that one outside the second time?
But it was outside
yes,
the second time. It was outside and did very, very well for us, along with Hamlet and The Merchant of Venice. Merchant of Venice, by the way, is is Shakespeare's most popular comedy with the LDS people.
And why is that?
I think because they understand. I think they understand the Jewish pogrom, the Jewish treatment in society. I think that they most of them came from families that relate back to Hans Mill or to Nauvoo when the temple was burned and all sorts of things. So I think that they just say Shylock, and he's a sympathetic character as far as they're concerned, and deserves his pound of flesh.
So if the LDS community at that time related to Merchant of Venice, why did they relate to Taming of the Shrew?
Oh, I think subliminally every LDS man would love to. Am I wrong? I'm not going to say a word. She's sitting right there. Anyway, but it was a successful play, a successful season, and now 4 years later, and I'm asked. The boys brought me out, dusted me off, and said, "Let's." It would be kind of fun to have Fred direct the last comedy in this theater. And there'd be something kind of interesting about it. But they were so worried that I might die during the process that they hired Scott Phillips, the executive director. They said, "Scott, we'll do this only if you'll co-direct it with him. So in case he drops dead, you can take over and we'll still have a production." And I hoped that Scott would be here this morning. I asked him, I said, "I hope you'll come," but apparently he didn't.
Okay, so
but it's a different production. I'm 54 years older, and like I told some of my orientation people, in those 54 years, I married, raised a family, became a grandfather, and became a widower. And I've done a whole gamut of a man's life. And all of a sudden, Petruchio and Kate has a completely different resonance to me. And so when I first was asked about it, I sat down with the play and I just began to read it and study it to try to figure out why has Shakespeare written this play? He obviously didn't beat up on his wife, but it kind of came to me as I started to study it that it is a love story, and so this time that's what I tried to do. I lucked out in getting a husband and wife that are truly devoted to one another, and I hope that kind of I hope that read to you as a romance. She's a lovely shrew. She's a lovely shrew. As a director, we are allowed to nominate to put it in a mix one character, and I said I want Melinda Funstein, because when she walks out onto a stage, it lights up. She's incandescent. She just has that, and has always had it. She had it as a student here in productions that I directed with her. And with that, and her husband comes along and says, you know, I wouldn't mind playing opposite her if you don't mind. Don't mind, you know, after they picked me up off the floor.
Of course, they were husband and wife in Into the Woods last season
Yes,
as well,
and had a great time with it.
But to your comment about how you look at the play 54 years different with your life experience, the other thing is that you are presenting this play. Unlike in 1962, you have an international audience that comes here, people from all over that have come to expect a certain professionalism here at this festival. You don't have football players in your cast.
No, I have equity actors, for heaven's sakes. Terrifying.
And also the fact that in 2015, there is a sensibility about this play that, of course, as you say, was written over 400 years ago for an audience that was familiar with the story, that saw a cast that was an all-male cast, playing female roles. The satire of it, the slapstick of it, changes, I believe, a great deal when you have female actors playing those roles.
Very much so.
And hence your reasoning about it being a love story, but still omitting the Christopher Sly story in it, but bringing to the fore this love story.
Yeah, for those of you who don't understand, when Shakespeare wrote this play, he writes it is a play within a play. He actually had what we call the Christopher Sly induction scenes. A drunken, a local town lush passes out in a pub, and they decide to play a trick on him, and they dress him up as a lord. He's unconscious. Dress him up as a lord. Bring a young boy in as his mistress, and that he's been dreaming, and now he's awake. So when he wakes up, and to keep him and his hands off of the boy, so he doesn't discover that his wife is a boy, they have a troupe of actors come and perform a play to amuse Christopher Sly. What it does, and this is the reason I am loath to it. We've done it twice. It has been done. What it does is it makes Kate and Petruchio play actors, and so the comedy becomes very broad, very artificial, because they're playing to this lecherous old man, and you, the audience, are allowed to peek and listen in. And it adds a flavor to the play that I think is sad, because I think it's a better play than that. I think the play of Taming of the Shrew, I think it's Shakespeare's best comedy. I've said it for years, because it's the only comedy. It's the only comedy where every single character is accounted for. Every single one has an arc and an ending. Everyone. Old Gremio has it. Hortensio, the widow, is thrown in, but even she has a whole life story. Everybody in the play has a tied up ending. You don't find that in Midsummer Night's Dream. You don't find that in As You Like It, Twelfth Night. You don't find that in any of the rest of them, because he's got a whole lot of characters, and he's in a hurry, and he's writing for television anyway, and he's got to have another play next week. So just to cram this one in and go on for another one. And so he leaves characters dangling out there, and audiences don't seem to care. But in Shrew, he really meticulously ended them all, finished them all.
And the characters, when you don't do the induction, the Christopher Sly part, that's very literal. There aren't fairies. It isn't magic.
No.
It is very in the moment.
It's yes, and it's very human driven. There's no denouement. The moment at the end, it's up to he and Kate, and you saw when they were on the road, and all of a sudden she says, "Okay, it's the moon," but it's the sun when you say it is, and when it's not the sun, it's the moon or it's the star or whatever. She interrupts him before he can throw another thing at her, and he realizes she's caught on.
Okay, let's turn it over to you. And since there is a very large crowd here, if after you make your comments or ask a question, can you watch and pass the mic? I often get people coming up to me at the break that say, I had a very important thing to say and you didn't call on me. And so if you can help with that, that would be great. Okay, who wants to be the first lemming off the...
Lemming.
Over here.
Well, she's
okay.
getting that. I just wanted to say the young man that was setting up the thing here is Josh Stavros, and he's the director, the writer and director of the Green Shows, and done a crackerjack job. He's a remarkable young man, and he's the associate director of our educational outreach program, which of course is absolutely huge here at the festival.
I'd seen the play last week, and I was so mesmerized. I had seen the play last week, and I was so mesmerized with your approach in the relationship between the two characters that I had to see it again last night. And I have to say, it absolutely entranced me again. And the love between the two of them just was almost incandescent. It was just so beautifully done.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Did you all hear?
I'm so glad. Thank you.
And where did you come from to see it a second time?
Oh, we've been staying here, but I'm from Arizona.
Okay, thank you. All right, and
Wonderful.
other comments? We scared everybody, Fred.
I'll
They're not
just
going
say
to
it
talk
quickly
now.
from here. I just want to say of all the times I've seen Taming the Shrew, this is the best I've ever seen.
Oh,
And I think it's because of this new kind of feeling between the lovers, between the two. Yeah,
he didn't brutalize her.
that's right.
And I don't know if any of you noticed, in the script, Shakespeare never has Petruchio say a disparaging thing about Catherine, other than the word Kate, which of course is an offensive word for a woman in Elizabethan time. Kate was a loose cat. And so he plays on that. No one else is allowed to. But other than that, he never, ever calls her, never brings her to point, or never derides her, downplays her. Well, I thought that's very nice.
But physically, he does.
Well, physically, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay. Take your pick, verbally or physically, right? But I think you get a hint of that, the comment about Kate, when they first meet.
Yes.
And he calls her Kate, and she says, my name is Catherine.
My name is Catherine.
Yes,
Those who know me.
yes.
Okay, I've got the mic. First
Yes.
of all, I want to say thank you so much, Fred, for everything that you've done. We've been bringing our children for 20 plus years, and now they come with their friends, and it's delightful. And it's always a place where we feel at home and safe and nurtured. I think it resonated with me what you said about the evolution of your attitude about Taming of the Shrew, because my husband and I kind of went through the same thing. When you're younger, you simply see it as, boy versus girl and kind of a juvenile romance. But now when we look at it, we realize the real Shrew is Bianca.
Yes.
And lots of times they don't play it that way. You don't see it overtly, but she clearly is the real Shrew. And the love story that develops between Kate and Petruchio, and how they develop into a true, deep love. I loved it in the end when you had him giving the money back,
Yes.
because money meant nothing to him. He had love.
Yeah, he had that love. Yeah. And you notice the widow took the money? Yes.
Fred, I really appreciated this particular play too. Now, Bruce Lee asked me to write an
You want to tell
article.
the audience who Bruce Lee is?
Oh, Bruce Lee is the editor of the various magazines, the online magazine Insights, and then the Midsummer magazine.
And director of publications.
Yes,
here
the
at
director of
festival.
publications. He asked me to write for Insights magazine on Taming of the Shrew, and I was excited to do that. And what's interesting, of course, we're about the same age.
Oh, are you kidding?
You might
You're
you
not
might
even
have a few
close.
years on me. But I kind of came to the same conclusions you did about the love story. Also, I came to the same conclusions you did about Bianca's backstory.
Yes.
So I came to the same conclusion. And if you'll forgive me, let me just read the last couple lines that I wrote in the article to see how that matches what you would say. I said, it remains, let's see, Petruchio and Kate are deeply in love and have reservedly been since first sight. And with that flammable love, tamed and tamer become nebulous. Kate, now this is a quote from Bloom, Harold Bloom. Kate and Petruchio clearly are going to be the happiest married couple in Shakespeare.
Yes.
Petruchio, searching for money, journeyed from Verona to Padua and discovered love as well. Caterina, seeking nothing, resoundingly found love. Bellissimo, no?
It's wonderful. Wonderful. I appreciate that input. And Bianca is the shrew.
Oh, she is.
Bianca
By
is
far.
the shrew, raised by her father, motherless, of course. We pretty much had ascertained that. And you notice that she never wore the same dress twice. Daddy has taken good care of her to the expense of Kate. Not that he doesn't love Kate, not that he doesn't care about her, but she could take care of herself, and Bianca was a baby and needed a lot of mollycoddling. And how many of you know where that's happened? Believe me, yeah, my youngest, yes. And as a father, I was blind to my youngest could have anything, because he was the youngest, and we had a hard time getting him, and the others were old enough to go off and take care of one another. And so now it comes back to me when we all get together and they talk about, yeah, and he's your favorite. He's your, and
You say, yes, he is.
yes, he is.
Saves argument, right?
Yeah.
I want to just challenge you a little bit, or challenge Harold Bloom when you say that, when he said that those characters are Shakespeare's characters that have the best life after. I would interject, in my opinion, that it's Beatrice and Benedict from Much Ado, not Kate and Petruchio. I mean, pick your couple, I guess. But also, I also challenge a bit the idea that when Kate and Petruchio meet, before they say a word, to use the words from your article, that they fall deeply in love. I don't think they fall deeply in love at that moment. I think as they realize that they are both, that they have met their match intellectually, and Kate, who has been so frustrated by not having anyone who is her match in that kingdom because she's so smart, finally Petruchio enters and she says, aha.
Yeah,
but she looks at him the way Fred has staged this, and the way Melinda and Brian, in my opinion, she is still really sizing him up. He's had a little bit of information before.
She's had nothing.
She's had nothing. She walks out. He's already been sort of programmed to think who he's going to meet. But Kate has nothing, and she walks out. And the way this Kate is portrayed, she doesn't, I don't think, you can spar with me, I don't think she falls deeply in love with Petruchio
I did use
at the
the word
moment.
reservedly.
Reservedly.
Okay.
That's
Reservedly.
All right.
probably a
Plus-
better way of saying it.
Plus, also, I think Shakespeare is perfecting his craft. This was the first go around, and then you have
Beatrice and
Beatrice and Benedict were the second go around.
Yeah, and many scholars, Harold Bloom included, maintain that Kate and Petruchio transform themselves into Beatrice and Benedict in a later comedy, where he wanted to examine one more time the husband and wife situation, and I think in many respects Beatrice and Benedict will have the happiest life, primarily because their courtship has a greater challenge has a greater obstacle than Kate and Petruchio. Catherine and Petruchio have the only obstacle they have is one another. And Beatrice and Benedict, of course, we have that whole kill Claudio. You know, if you love me, go kill your best friend for me, and that's kind of squeamish, even today. Yeah.
Prior to moving to California, we spent 22 years in the Detroit area, and were avid Stratford of Canada goers.
Isn't it marvelous?
2-3 times every 3 weekends a summer.
Yeah,
we would go and just thoroughly enjoyed it. And when we moved out 2 years ago, we had Shakespeare withdrawal syndrome. Fortunately, our very dear friends told us about the Cedar City Shakespeare Festival. So we felt, my wife and I both felt, every bit as good a production here as was Stratford. I hope you take that not as a negative, but as a very positive statement.
No, because Stratford, Ontario is just, it's the largest producing theater company in the world. Is budget and size and run. It outshines the Royal Shakespeare in England, and they do glorious work. I had an opportunity to be there with Tyrone Guthrie when it was in a tent, and what a glorious time that was for me.
We both felt that your direction of the play was just outstanding
I'm
last
glad.
night. So
thank you,
my
and thank you for coming,
and the Shakespeare Festival in total.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, and thank you, Fred. No one will ever accuse you of being politically correct. And we thank you for that.
Okay.
And as for Ontario, for anyone who's not been there, it's worth a trip, because in the ladies' room after intermission, they pipe you out of the ladies' room. You think it's really important?
Yes, you do. Yes, they do. I bet you didn't experience that, did you?
They scare the hell out of you. It's terrific. Fred, I have a directorial problem.
Yes.
Where did you get the stuttering comic character? I think he's got to go.
The stuttering comic.
That was the guy. We got to get rid of him.
Oh.
I mean, you beat up on the Jews in the LDS this morning. Good for you. I deserve it. But the stuttering character's got to go. The rest was fabulous.
Basically, he was only stuttering because he was cold. I would never make fun of stuttering. I would never dare. My wife was a speech therapist. I could never make fun of stuttering or lisping. I would never dare. She would haunt me viciously. But basically, he was trying to show how cold he was. I think he went maybe a little too far. We're going to. He's got a note to tone it, to pull it back a little. He's an amazing character, and he's an amazing actor. Aaron Gallagher Steerle. He's the thing that I'm always awestruck is Aaron was on Broadway. For what? Phantom of the Opera and Dr. Seuss. But in Phantom, he gave up after running Phantom for a couple of years, he gave it up to come here on Broadway. Is a lovely guy, and I'd love to chain him to the fence post and not let him go back to New York. Oh no, I wouldn't mean that as a correction, because I have to agree with you. It put too much air in where we needed to tighten it up. We needed to tighten it there, and we will.
I just have two comments. One, the actions that are going on around the main actions are superb. All of it, the whole cast is such a seamless organ working together that you have to see it several times, because look what did you see that? They're so smart and so quick and so sharp. We love that. The only thing I would say is have Catherine bump up her last soliloquy. I mean, she kind of throws that one away that all of
The
we're all-
women love.
we
so.
want to hear it
We
more, you
want
know,
to hear
and
it.
and I see
yeah.
the action moving
She
along,
got, she
but I
got a
wanted
note
to
on that
just
last night.
take more, you know.
Yeah, just take a little more control. And to the ensemble, Petruchio's servants are Lieutenant Cable, who will absolutely blow your mind when you see South Pacific. It will blow you out of the water. That voice is breathtaking. And Prince Hal in Henry IV is a character in mine, and Falstaff is a character in mine, and so I'm working with all of these people, and they're doing these marvelous roles in these other plays, and Tranio is Charlie's aunt. So you'll see them, and you'll see them in other incarnations, but it's so fun for me to work with them. This little servant that does all of this sort of thing in Petruchio's house is the most glorious romantic lead I have ever seen on that Randall stage. Wait till you see him.
Of course, Melinda plays Goneril in King Lear.
And Melinda, of course, is Goneril. You're going to see her in Lear. Yeah. There's a back there.
Okay, and one on the very back.
Right back
Okay.
there.
Go ahead. Okay, to the back.
Just
And then
pass
we'll
it
go over
back.
here. We've been ignoring this side, so we'll go this way and then come back here.
What we need is just have body mics for all of you, and then we could.
There are naming rights available for that,
and
right?
there would be naming rights. No, but there are seats available, by the way. If you want to have a seat named, you can buy a seat now in the Ingolstadt Shakespeare Theater.
I appreciated the touch that you threw in with Bianca. I've never seen an actress portraying her who pushed the envelope so much in terms of what an unpleasant, nasty girl she actually is. When she takes that flop on the stage, when Catherine is several feet away from her and makes her father think that, Catherine did that to her, made me think of when somebody takes a flop on the athletic field and somebody who didn't touch the person gets called for a foul. But anyway, I had never seen that interpretation placed on Bianca before. Normally, Bianca, for me, is mostly a throwaway character, and this young lady definitely was not. And I thought your production epitomized that famous quotation about how there are no small parts, but small actors. Every one of your people were memorable. Sugar Sop was memorable. Normally, you don't even, you hear the name, you think, well, what a funny name, but the character.
It's Shakespeare's name. It's the name of the cook.
Right.
Sugar Sop.
Yeah. I had a question. I was startled last night when I was finally looking through the big program to see that Henry Warnitz is not here, and it was my understanding he was going to be playing, that they were going to have the same people through all the productions in the main roles. And oh my word,
yeah,
this lady here told me what happened. I didn't. Thank you.
Yeah, we of course, Henry signed a 3-year contract to do Falstaff for 3 consecutive performances, but his beautiful wife Fontaine contracted cancer, and we lost her a couple of weeks ago, and he just couldn't leave her side.
Of course not.
And
of course not.
We've all been wearing sackcloth and ashes over that. We felt so bad.
Sure.
She was such a love. She directed twice for us, so it was a hard loss.
Saw quite a bit of her work at Oregon Shakespeare.
Yes,
both
Fontaine was at Oregon for quite a while.
So
yeah,
I didn't know that's what would happen.
Yeah,
I was afraid this morning. I was afraid to ask this question, whether it was a subject that would be touchy, and indeed it is touchy.
Oh well, no,
Yeah.
No, it's part of life. I mean, we understand that, but he had to be with her. We just felt that, and we let him out of the contract. Our hope is that we'll get Henry back, not just once in a while. We'd like to have him back often, and not always, because he's really, truly one of the great writers, great directors, great actors. So we love to have Henry around.
Who's the
You,
finest?
you may remember his production 2 times ago. This is the 10th time Taming of the Shrew has been presented at this festival.
Yes.
But 2 times ago, the last time was the indoor production set in World War II. Time before that, I believe, was 2004. I might have the date wrong. But Henry directed that production with Leslie Brott and Michael Kieran Connolly as a middle-aged Kate and Petruchio, and they did use the Christopher Sly.
And they used the
production,
Christopher
yes.
Sly. But the thing that I loved is that Henry wanted to see Kate and Petruchio at 60 years of age courting. He's her last chance, and she's probably his last chance. And it worked. I found that just charming. Now over here we have.
I wanted to add one thing to the Bianca Katerina thing, relationship. I had a younger brother and he was famous, but he didn't quite go to the extremes that Bianca goes to, but he was famous at putting on an innocent life. If there was a controversy and my mother walked into the room, he would put on the look of, oh, it's all her fault. I think that's a real family dynamic that you've captured there. If any of us have younger siblings, as you said, the younger ones are often favored by the parents.
Yes.
And to me, I just laughed because I had seen that expression and those little ploys on my younger brother when I was growing up.
Okay. Same with me. My brother is 14 years younger than me. Yeah. Brat. And he's a nuclear physicist. In his hands, the world's in trouble.
I've got a question about the way in which the director interacts with the lead actors on how things are going to be interpreted. Is that mainly your call, or is it more of an interactive process, including notes that are made on how to refine it as time goes on?
I so appreciate that question, because almost everything that Kate and Petruchio did, they sculpted. I gave them a suggestion and they would go with it, or they'd flatly tell me no. And I'm going to give you an instant. Kate takes the banana. She sees the banana on the floor. I had Kate put the banana down her bodice. And then Petruchio comes out, thus I have politically begun my reign, peeling her banana. I thought, that's going to get a laugh. Everyone's going to love that. And Brian said, I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. I wouldn't put my bride in that kind of a situation where I would be examining her, undressing, something like that. He said it was tasteless, Adams, and you have no right to come up with that. And Kate said, no, I'll hold the banana and he can take it from me, but I will not compromise our relationship as newlyweds by putting that down my neck. And they put me in my place.
What about the choice to have Petruchio for his wedding ride in on his servant? Was that Aaron? Was that you? That
was Brian. Brian said it's the only time in the entire canon that he wishes that there was a horse to ride in on. He said Petruchio just needs that extra set of that extra punch. And Aaron said, then ride me. And so he picked him up and they gave him a carrot at the end of it and went the whole horse bit with it. Shakespeare mentions horses all the way through. Oh, take our horses back again. We'll walk. We'll meet you with our horses at Lane's End, that sort of thing, because they didn't use horses in their performances. But Brian really wanted to ride a horse in on that moment, and so they came up with that themselves.
And you didn't think about using a stick horse or?
No. No, in fact, I hope you noticed that the costume that Brian wore to his wedding is exactly what it was described in in Biondello's speech. The pants are turned inside out. The pockets are flapping. It's turned inside out with all the seams showing. The cape is a patchwork quilt that he's turned into a cape, and the hat is new, a new hat. And our customer, Bill Black, is a stickler for details like that. Originally, the dress that they destroy, rip the sleeves off and everything, was the dress that Kate wore to the wedding at the end. But it just didn't work. It was too bold. It was too bold. It ruined the whole picture, and as a result, it made Melinda very uncomfortable. This gigantic geometric thing at her sister's wedding. Kate would not have done that, and as a result, we built another dress after the first dress rehearsal. Built another dress for her, but it was yeah. They have a lot to say. Actors, especially when the actor that's playing Petruchio hires you.
What he's referring to, for those in the live streaming audience that might not know, Brian Vaughn and David Ivers, who are the artistic directors here, also are the casting directors.
They are the casting directors. They are the artistic directors. They pick the season. They pick the designers. They then pick the directors. They then pick the actors and tell the directors who will be playing what in that director's play.
But they don't cast themselves.
They don't cast themselves. No, David is playing Salieri, and he's doing a marvelous job of it. But it was not his idea. That was not David's idea. That was Brian and Scott Phillips said Amadeus is going to have either Brian or David has to play a role in that to bolster ticket sales.
And I had heard, and you could tell me if this is accurate, the theater gossip around, but that Brian even though Brian is directing Henry IV Part 2, a big job, and David is directing Charlie's Aunt, that Brian really wanted to play one last time on the Adams stage.
Yes, he
where
did.
He's been so many times.
He wanted to. He cut his teeth there as an 18-year-old years ago. So he desperately wanted to be on the stage one last time. And we're all feeling that the building has become a part of our company, and we're all feeling very tender as the days get close to where we'll tear her down. The final nights, the 3 final nights here, are going to be really quite spectacular. Just come back. Well, actually, when the comedy closes, tribute will be paid to all of the comedies that have been performed on the stage, and then the lights will dim, and then the Lear the next night will highlight all of the tragedies, and the lights will dim, and on the 3rd night it will be Henry, and the histories will be recounted. The entire audience will be given candles, and those candles will be lit, and then the audience will be led over to illuminate the Ingolstadt Theater at the end of the scene. I don't know. September 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Yeah. So we're all going to be tear struck, and then I think I'll just go to bed for a month. Right over here,
Yes,
we've
sir.
got people still waiting for that mic.
Fred, I noticed that in the play,
Now, he has no right to ask me anything. He's my cousin.
the concept of marriage is somewhat different than 20th century America. That is, the father had to give permission, and that it was a business proposition. That is, there were dowries and so on. want to comment anything?
Wasn't
about
wasn't that ever the situation at LaSalle?
No, never.
Don't you think? This is Hardison Red of the Red family. Luella Red Adams, the theater here, is his, what was your great aunt, your grandfather's sister,
Yes.
and my grandmother's sister, and my grandfather's brother. That brothers married two of the little red ants, and yes, actually, it's interesting. Shakespeare makes a dowry thing of this, when in reality, at the time of this play, a father's permission would be asked for if he is planning to make a financial gift. But that wasn't necessarily the case. A couple could elope to Gretna Green and be married and never even ask for permission. Shakespeare did that. Shakespeare did not have permission from Anne Hathaway's father, but he never inherited any of the Hathaway land as a result of that. But I think Hathaway was thrilled because she was a spinster. She was an old maid past the age of bearing children when he married her. They were in for a surprise. But dowry then had to have father's permission. Well, actually, most marriages were arranged. And the women had nothing at all to say, nor did the man have anything necessarily to say. If the parents wanted adjoining land, they would marry their children to one another, and love came later. And if it didn't come later, then they had perfectly legal mistresses and affairs. That was perfectly legal and accepted, not just in aristocracy and royalty. That was a given experience. You could, if you were in an unhappy marriage, you had an excuse to live with someone else.
Hi there.
There
Can
you
you
are.
hear me? Yes. As a matter of fact, my parents were an arranged marriage from Poland, and love came later.
And they loved one another.
They very much.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful living with them because I learned a lot about a whole different culture.
Yes, how lovely.
But I wanted to comment and add kudos to all the other kudos. I saw the 2004 play, Taming of the Shrew, and I saw last night's, and I loved the fact that you brought the language a little more into modernization, and also the fact that there were so many mischievous little nuances that you brought in that I'd never seen before. I think this was my 5th production, and I just loved it. I thought it was the best I've ever seen, and I wanted to thank you.
Thank you so much. That's kind of you.
Thank you.
Can you send the mic this way?
No, there's a lady right here
and
with
then
a
we'll
flop,
get to this
with a
person, these
floppy
people over
hat
here.
right there. She's got it finally.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. This is a directorial question, and it does spin off of the last comment. This was I would describe it as a beautiful traditional set design and period costuming. And the disconnect for me was the abundance of very contemporary gestures, particularly below Petruchio and Kate, who seemed to gesture with every single line with quotation marks, with fist bumps, thumbs up, and it seemed to be a stylistic directorial decision to add humor bits. So I'd like you to comment on that.
I did add humor bits, this sort of thing, and quotes, which are very modern. They're very modern, and I did do that. I intruded on the script that way. We did not change the language. I only changed one word, galleass. I have a galleass, and I said no, call it a merchant ship, because I just thought in that moment. But that's the That's the only time I attempted any change in the language. But I did put some of that in because I know that there's going to be a lot of young people who are going to come to this and be totally frightened about understanding. Will I understand it? Will I even enjoy it? And I thought, if I can put a few things in it that that relate to them, that say, "Oh, I recognize that." I had a marvelous experience with Harold Bloom, by the way, who was mentioned earlier, a great scholar. He maintained that a 5-year-old child cannot understand what his parents are saying, but he understands what they mean. He doesn't understand the words. He doesn't have them all. A few of them he has, and he can put those together and concoct a sentence out of it. He certainly understands no and a few, but what he understands is the content behind the words. And so I thought I could make this easier for young people by doing some of that modernization. I apologize for that, but it just seemed that I felt like I owed it to that generation that do nothing but text and look at a stupid screen all day. I want so badly for them to sit and recognize something and get caught in it and carried away. So that was my ulterior motive.
I'll pass my mic back here.
Okay, so I'm kind of going back to an earlier part of the discussion talking about the romance.
Yes.
I think I can confirm that age is what makes the difference, because for me, in parts, it felt very much like he was controlling or brainwashing her. Like, I guess there was the real relationship between the two actors kind of came through a bit too sudden for me, at the same time as he was like sleep depriving her and not feeding her. And so it kind of felt to me like
brainwashing.
Oh,
how interesting.
And I think part of that may just be the dissonance in values between 400 years ago and now, because like certainly the speech where men do all the work and women stay home and take care of the house was certainly true back then, and not so much now. And so even being aware of that, though, it's for me, it was just a little hard to buy into the full romance.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for that. I have to say something to the women here. Kate's speech at the end, which some of you wish had been projected bolder. Kate makes a statement, and Sir James M. Barrie writes it beautifully, what every woman knows. But what Kate is telling her sister and the widow is, this man that you've married will do anything for you if you can't. If you simply will be the helpless, weaker generation, as an individual, he will go out of his way to protect you, to provide for you, to adorn you, whatever it takes. And she says, our strength is weakness, but our weakness is past compare. Okay, to a modern woman, and we've got one sitting here, you got a paycheck every day of your life since you were 18. You've not equal pay, though. Never equal pay. that thought rankles. So what you're saying is really true. We are dealing with a different generation, a different age. Because women don't have to be taken care of anymore. But let me just ask the women here, how many of you like being taken care of? Sure we do. Sure we do. Now let me ask the men, how many of you enjoy being taken care of? So you bet. So it's a universal, there's a universal need there. Okay, we're almost out of time.
I want you to know I've been coming since 1976.
Wow.
And Michael Finlayson did the first
Yes.
when I was
Oh,
here.
beloved Michael.
And this was my very favorite Taming of the Shrew. And I want you to know that I'm so proud that Utah Shakespeare Theater is featured in USA Today. So today's issue of USA Today should go fast because it features not only the Shakespeare Theater, but Fred Adams.
Wow. I've got to go get a copy because that's really something. Thank you, you darling. 76. Oh, my heavens, that was fun back then. Shakespeare, we had a lot of fun, didn't we, back then? Michael Finlayson, just very quick little moment of history. Michael Finlayson was an Oxford scholar that directed for the theater in London, the Royal Shakespeare Company. And he came here because a friend of his had a shop here in the Indian House. We got acquainted, and the next year he came back. We asked him to direct, and he directed for several years for us. And he said, there are so many people that want to talk about the plays, and you don't have a single place open at night where they can go and get a cup of coffee and a piece of pie. And he said, why would you mind if I move some people the next morning up into this little grove here and we could talk about the play they saw last night? And that's how this idiotic thing got started. That's all yours.
Well, it got started because of Fred C. Adams, and we are extremely grateful to him. So thank you, Fred, for your production. Thank you for spending an hour with us. And thank you all for being here this morning for this hour. We will take a quick break, stand up off those comfortable bleachers, and we'll be back with J.R. Sullivan, the director of Amadeus, and talk about that next hour.